Hi, Ursula's on the. Oh, there she is now. She was on the other one.
Yay!
What did we do?
You know what? It wasn't you. It's like we were all set up, and then all of a sudden, I have two computers going, and they both went, "Oh, we're going to do updates."
Oh no.
I
Okay.
was like, "Okay, so we learned. We want to make sure we do all of our updates and shut down everything." That was crazy. Yay!
We're so glad to see you. I'm glad you're okay. We were worried.
Yeah, we were
Yeah,
kind of
I saw you
worried.
join. Hi. Awesome. So I know we're starting. Here, let me just do this. All right. So we're going to start recording. I want to welcome everyone to week 2 of our Be Inspired pre-event training via Google Hangout. And, when we started last week, I shared with the audience, it's like we love technology, especially when it works. And so we're doing a lot of firsts. This technology is one of our firsts. Last week was our actual first Google Hangout, and nothing went wrong. And this week we had a little bit of challenges, but you know what? I'm here to demonstrate that it's not about doing things perfectly. I truly believe that done is better than perfect. And for many of you as women, you're waiting to launch and you're waiting for everything to be done perfectly. And that's what stops you from really playing a bigger game. So things will break down. That's okay. You just roll with the flow. What you need to learn is how to be very flexible. And so this week we have two amazing women that have joined us that we're going to be interviewing. And I am super excited because, both of these women, their topics are radically different, but in some regards, they can overlap. And Michelle G. She is our dating and relationship expert who will be joining us at the beInspired conference on September 26th through the 28th. And then Ursula Mentjes is our sales expert. And I love sales, but I know there's a lot of women on the phone on the training within our IAWEP community that when you think of sales, you're like, ew, I don't like that. I don't feel good when I sell. So Ursula is going to be talking a little bit about the mindset around selling and why it's so important for you not only to embrace it, but really get good at it. What I love about sales is a skill set, and that means that no one was born a great salesperson. It means that we learn how to become great salespeople. So just so that those who are joining us, how this call is going to work is we're basically going to go into interview format. Within the chat, you have an opportunity to ask your most burning question of the ladies, and we'll be popping in, looking at the chat, and answering those questions for you, or asking the questions, and the ladies can address them. And we're going to interview Michelle first, and then we're going to take like a little short commercial break where I get to share with you our upcoming conference, and then we're going to wrap up with Ursula. So let's get into it. Michelle G. Hey, lady.
Hello, Ray. It's such a pleasure to be here with you and with Ursula. Thank you for this opportunity, and hello to everyone that's watching live.
Awesome. So, Michelle, can you tell our audience, can you share with our audience a little bit about you and a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, my name is Michelle G, and I am a Marine combat veteran. I was in the Marine Corps for 13 years, served my country, had an amazing time, learned a lot. A lot of what I did focused in the Marine Corps was intelligence with a combination of relationship marketing. And so I was really focused on bringing all kinds of business, foreign leaders, national leaders, prime ministers, bringing them to the table and be able to say, hey, listen, we need to come together to solve a problem. We need to make sure that we are able to continue our mission here, and how can we work together? So I had the pleasure of doing that all around the world, to include in Iraq. So I took that experience and I kind of translated it into what I do today. During my time in the Marine Corps, it was one of those things where I had to make several decisions throughout my life. Do I stay or do I go? What's the next thing that has to happen? And I wasn't sure. So I was married once before. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. We were two different people. During that time, I was also a victim of sexual assault, which was not something that, it's kind of one of those things that you experience, and until you experience something like that, you really don't know how to handle and how to deal with it. So I went through these experiences, and the whole time, like a lot of women, I'm fine, everything's okay. And then all of a sudden, you experience this entire whirlwind of what is happening. It all of a sudden, it's like, oh my God, what's happening? What's going on in my life? And I got to that point, and I had to make the decision: do I move away from the thing that I love, but I know it's also causing me pain, or do I take the leap and just go? And I decided to walk away from my marriage. I decided to walk away from the Marine Corps. I took the skills, I took my experiences, and I translated into what I saw throughout relationships with all these high level folks. I was like, you know what? If people are experiencing at this level, they're having a struggling relationships, are struggling just like I did. And so I took those experiences and I built my own framework and helping people get ready to give and receive love.
That's amazing. And the thing that I have experienced, I say 3 times is a charm, lady. Isn't that beautiful? Uh, but it really did. It took me 2 bad marriages to really realize that, in my case, the common denominator, even though my first marriage was very abusive, I was a victim of domestic violence. So I don't take responsibility for that, but I will say that, there were some learnings and some growing opportunities that I needed to do within to really love and appreciate and value myself so that I could attract the amazing man that I have in my life right now. And I know that for many, especially high achieving women that might be in that masculine energy, and they got the superwoman cape flowing, and they think they just have to do it all their own. And what I'm noticing, Michelle, is that their businesses is becoming their marriage, and many of them, they really, 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 really want to have a soulmate, and they don't know where to start. So, are there really rules of engagement? When we look at finding your soulmate, or even when we look at business relationships in general, is there rules of engagement that overlaps from business to personal? And if so, can you share those?
Absolutely. There are rules of engagement, and to be honest with you, the principles are the same. The way that you build business relationships to help grow and accelerate your business are the same principles that you use when you're building interpersonal and personal relationships. What do I mean? And I think Ursula could chime in and say that she agrees with this, is when we are trying to attract and find our soulmate, we're looking for that special someone. One of the things that we have to be really cognizant of is, how is the relationship with yourself first? Okay, how is, you got to make sure that you're good, that you're solid, you're grounded where you are, because that kind of permeates out of you when you're looking for that special someone. So the first step is you put your best foot forward, right? And then what happens? The key is in the follow-up. The fortune is in the follow-up, right? So that fortune is in the follow-up. Well, the same thing happens in our personal relationships. We have to not just follow up, but I'm going to use the term nurture those relationships, And as you're nurturing those relationships, they take a little bit of different boundaries. The boundaries are different, but you still got to always check in. How are things going in my marriage? How are things going with me? How are things going with my dating life? The same thing in business. How are my clients doing? How are the relationships with my affiliate partners doing? Are we all meeting each other's needs? What's the objective? And I think most women, at some point, we forget sometimes what exactly our clear objective is. We know we want a partner. We know we want him to be tall, dark, and handsome. But how does he make you feel? What does he bring to the relationship?
Mm-hmm. That's really good, because I think it's that clarity. Clarity with clarity is power,
Mm-hmm.
and when you have clarity, you're able to focus, and you get clear of what you accept and what you don't accept. And I think many times when we look at relationship, whether that's a business relationship or a personal relationship, sometimes We don't have that clarity. We don't have that clarity around who our ideal client is, right?
Mhm.
I work with everyone. No, you don't. We don't have that clarity around our niche. We don't have that clarity around, if we are attracting this mate, what we expect them to show up. How do we expect them to show up? And even more importantly, how do we expect to show up in this relationship? So, can you give us your number one big aha that people could implement to have successful, juicy relationships? And does it even exist, right? Does it even exist? Can they expect that?
I get that questions from clients a lot. Is there the one thing, and different people say it's communication, or it's you have to make sure that you're on the same page, or you're looking, or you have objectives. And to be honest with you, the number one thing, if you do just this one thing, your relationship will grow exponentially, is nurturing it. What do I mean? It incorporates all those things. Nurturing means that communication, means checking in with that person, checking in with yourself. I mean, at that point, it sounds something so simple, but I'll tell you what, if there's one thing that I've heard from you, Ray, over and over again about when you have your different events and you talk about how we have to go back to the basics. You got to go back to the basics. You can't ignore the basics. Just because you're growing, you got to keep going back to the basics. It's the same thing with the relationship. You got to go back to the basics. Remember where it is that you both came from, what you came to the table with, and continue to nurture that. Let that be at the forefront of your mind, so that way your relationship will grow as both of you grow as individuals and as a couple.
I remember, I think it was Tony Robbins that said that familiarity breeds contempt.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes what happens is, it's like when we're in this relationship, it's too good to be true, right? And then what happens is, the things that we used to do that actually made that person very magnetic and attracted to us, and vice versa, you stop doing it because you're comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going back, it's what I hear you say, it's going back to the basics or the foundational principles and saying, I want to nurture you. You are so important to me, and I want you to know that on a daily basis, and I don't want to take you for granted.
Mm-hmm.
Is that about right?
Absolutely, and I think we, especially with what I've seen with clients, and I have several CEOs or director of operations for corporations. What I see with them is they do marry their work, or what ends up happening is, well, I give my all to my work, so I don't have time to go and find that special someone, or I'm not going to change this part of myself. And what I say to them each and every time is, I'm never going to ask you to change yourself. I'm never going to ask for you to compromise who you are. I just want you to be very clear on who you are and what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that when someone says that's like pushback, that they're really afraid to put themselves out there, and so therefore it's easy for them to say, like, this is my experience, especially with high achieving women, and you guys can chime in and say how, I know you serve a lot of high achieving women, so I would love to get your feedback on that, Ursula. That many times what happens is it's just easier for me to say, oh, I don't have time, I'm too busy, than to put myself out there and be vulnerable and be worried and fearful that, well, what if I do and this person, it doesn't turn out the way that I expect? Because I find a lot of high achieving women are kind of control freaks. I don't know if you experience that.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, when we're in control, and when, if we are A-type personalities, we like to control things. But you can't control a relationship. You can't control your boyfriend, your husband, and we have to be vulnerable. We just have to be, and sometimes that's the hardest thing in the world. So sure, it's easier to just dive into work. Now, I've been with my husband almost 18 years,
oh, wow.
And I think the blessing for us is that we have grown together. But when I look back, there were times that if we wouldn't have grown together, I could see how that would have been difficult. So luckily, we just keep growing together. Now we have a beautiful son, and our path has continued to unfold, and I feel very blessed that we're in this place. And I think it's tough. Like, for high-achieving women who are running their businesses and have to be out dating, Michelle, you have your work cut out for you. It's tough.
It is. It's tough. And you know, the other thing too, that besides it being so hard, and I'm going to go back to what Ray said, it is a pushback. It is a safety mechanism. It's kind of like I don't want to be vulnerable because what if I'm not everything, you know, I'm a fraud because I put up this great personality at work and all of a sudden people find out I'm all mushy and gooey inside. Well, here's the thing. That's the beautiful part of you. And everyone needs to see that because people, we connect with that. That's the part that we connect with.
You know, that's funny because my youngest son, he oftentimes would say, he said, you know, Mom, you really like one of those burnt marshmallows. You might be crispy on the outside, but you're all gooey inside. You know, he saw the tough side. You know, my clients call me the velvet hammer, so I have both sides. So Michelle, I know you have this philosophy around a healthy relationship starts with you. Can you tell us more about that?
I'm going to tell you the number one thing. My husband knows it. My number one priority is my self-care, taking care of myself. What does that mean? Nurturing me. Because when I take care of myself, when I have my quiet time, when I have my space to myself, the ability to grow as an individual, as a woman on my own, I have more to give, not only to my relationship, I have more to give to my business, I have more to give to my family. So my entire business is built on that philosophy. You know, we're not going to deal with one thing or learn or experience one thing and learn from it and then just be done with it. It's an ever-growing process. And that philosophy really started, like I told you earlier, is based on that experience that I had in my life. And I'm sure you can relate, Ray. You know, being a victim of domestic violence, I mean, that scars you, but when you have the time to reflect on it, I mean, you really were like, you know what, these are my boundaries, and I know what I need to do to keep vibrating at the level that I want to vibrate at.
That's true, and it's interesting because when I look back on my life, who I am today as a woman, I literally it's like scratching my head, like really, like how did I allow myself to accept that? And it really came back to some things inside of me that needed to be healed. Um, I needed to love myself. I needed to have those boundaries. I needed to set what was acceptable and what was non-acceptable in the relationships that I had. And by doing that, you know, I grew into it and I realized, you know what, that it's okay to say what I want and what I don't want. And I think I grew up in the, you know, from just our family history. I was literally the first person in my family history to get divorced. No one had ever gotten divorced. Matter of fact, you know, we heard that old saying, "You made your bed, now, you know, lie in it," kind of thing. Yeah, y'all all heard that. So it was a lot of just not only that, it was a paradigm. It was a lot of stuff that I had to break through in order to walk away. So I have the final question that I've been dying to ask you, that I know the ladies on the call and the ones who are going to be listening in the future want to know. They've been sitting there. They've been going on those little dating sites with the little profiles. They've been going on these dates. I see them on Facebook saying, "Oh my God, like really, this guy? What? Like, where are the real men?" And the question they want to know, they're like, "Let's cut through the BS, Michelle. We need to know: is love possible for everybody? And if so, how do they find it?" And I know you're going to be sharing more about this at our conference, but just give them a little sneak peek.
Well, to get the secret sauce, the real secret sauce, I'm going to share it at my breakout session. So I'm going to just give a little teaser. But I will say, yes, I have worked with clients in their early 30s. I have worked with clients who are in their mid 60s. And I will tell you that, yes, love is possible for everyone. How do you find it? Well, part of the secret sauce is the healthy relationship has to start with yourself first. But how do you know? What's the litmus test to know, you know what, I do have a good relationship with myself? Well, I'm going to be sharing that and along with other things at the breakout session.
Yeah, nice little hook. So you got to come. So for those of you who say, you know what, I was hoping that I was going to be in a relationship and I'm not in a relationship and now I'm entering the fourth quarter. Is it over for me? And the answer is no, not according to Michelle, that it is possible for everybody to really find love. And to me, when I think about that, I think about finding someone who's going to love you, that's going to appreciate you, that's going to that really honors you, and who's going to build you up. And as a woman entrepreneur, you know, first of all, I want to applaud you, Ursula. 18 years, yay!
A lot of work, Ray. A lot of
Yes,
work.
yes. And, you know, it's possible. And so I'm super excited to have Michelle joining us. Be Inspired. I just kind of want to break into our little mini commercial. Be Inspired is really not just about business building strategies. Be Inspired is really about us coming together as women and connecting. We have some of the most powerful, high achieving women that's going to be joining us. And what I know is that for many women, what their missing ingredient for really growing and expanding their business is a couple things. One, it has to do with their mindset. So we have money mindset experts. Two, it has to do with their skill set. So we have some of the top leaders, women leaders in our industry that's going to be sharing real world proven strategies to help you grow your business. But at the end of the day, what is the point of having a great business if you don't have a life? And so we have, you know, health experts, and we have Michelle talking about relationships. So I'm so excited that this event is going to be superly well-rounded. It's going to be a great combination of fun, because we have our girls just want to have fun dance party, woohoo! And then we're going to be doing some Zumba and some yoga on each day. And the other thing about it is that you're really going to get to connect. Collaboration is the key. If you have been sitting behind your four walls, being a lone ranger, I will tell you that you would only grow so far unless you expand and you connect and you collaborate with like-minded women. You're going to be stuck. And so I'm going to invite you to register for our Be Inspired conference. We'll tell you more about how you can take advantage of our discount at the end of this training. But I just want to whet your appetite and let you know that for those of you who have been wondering, is this a pitch fest? You know, I know you have quite a few speakers. Is this going to be pitch, 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 pitch? Anyone who knows me know I'm always erring on the part of over-delivering content. So it's not going to be about pitch, pitch, pitch. It's going to be about serving. And I think this is a great segue into our next presenter, which is Ursula Mentjes. And, you know, when we talk about this whole concept of selling, if you are going to have a powerful business, you must learn how to sell, period. And if you don't know how to sell, you need to hire someone who knows how to sell. But selling is part of the gig. And so Ursula, she has been in this conversation for so many years. She is one of the top sales trainers in the
old.
US.
Am I old? Is that what you're saying? Sorry.
No. No, you're not old. And if you are, you look good, girl. You hot. And so I brought her on because, you know, there's a lot of people out there telling you about how to sell and how to do it in a way that I don't feel that really resonates with women, because I think many women are taking on the masculine way of selling, and then they're not getting the results because they're inauthentic in their strategy. And so I know that Ursula is all about selling with intention. So welcome, Ursula. Yay!
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. See, it's all about selling with intention. Seriously, Ray, hats off to you. And for all of those who are listening, I know what it takes to put an amazing event on, and you're doing such an incredible job of bringing people together. People have to be there. So I'm excited to be here today, too, to have this conversation. So let's do this.
Yay! So Ursula, can you tell me, because I know there's a lot of people who have limiting beliefs around this word selling. So
Yeah.
I know you just showed us your book. Can you explain why is it that you wrote the book, and how did you come up with the title?
Yeah, well, the long and short of it is I took a sales job right out of college because I wanted to go to law school and I need money to pay for it. And so I took a job with an international computer training consulting company, knowing nothing about sales, nothing about computers, and I had to make cold calls. In fact, I had to make 100 cold calls a day, and I had to write on a tick sheet how many calls I'd made before I could go home. And it was horrible. And if I hadn't been making a $24,000 salary, I probably would have quit. But to me, that was a lot of money at the time, plus commission. And so I stuck with it. And I started to read every book on sales and selling. I read Brian Tracy, The Psychology of Selling, Jeffrey Gitomer, Sales Bible, Tom Hopkins, all the men. I don't know where the ladies are, but I was reading all the men's books about selling, and it just felt off. And I couldn't seem to figure out what was wrong or why I couldn't sell, and I wasn't doing very well. And at that same time, I read a little book called The Power of Intention by Wayne Dyer. You know that little book that's now on PBS and all over the world. And something clicked, and I thought, what if I could be intentional in the sales process? What if the IT directors that I was calling on weren't big green monsters, but were actually human beings who had a problem that I could solve? And so I started to shift my entire mindset about what I was doing. And so I went from selling, and I started solving problems, and I started serving. And I realized that it wasn't about me. Just like it's not about you, it's not about Michelle, it's about the clients we're here to serve. And for those who are listening, it's not about you either. It's about the people that you're supposed to help, whether it's corporations or individuals. And once I got that, once that shift happened, I started to become kind of unstoppable. So the long and short of it, I ended up going from a salesperson to president of a $20 million company by the time I was 27. And I share that with you not to say, look at what I did. I share with you because I'm a farm girl from Minnesota, where I'm back in Minnesota, my goodness. And I didn't know anything about the business world. So it was purely through my own study of what it means to sell and to sell with intention. I became highly unemployable, like all of you, and I went out and started my own company in 2004, 2005. I did the launch. And that's what I've been doing since. And so my company morphed from business coaching to sales coaching because I found that was my love and that's what I was helping people with. So what happened was, as I was coaching my clients all the time, I kept saying the same things over and over and over again until I finally realized, wow, Selling with Intention is a book. And so that's how the first book was born. And from there, this was really just about helping people, sales professionals and entrepreneurs, what you need to do to double and triple your sales in a short amount of time, especially women. I have male clients as well who I adore and they're amazing, but I find that women especially get stuck in that sales conversation. They don't want to be pushy. I hear that all the time. That's the biggest limiting belief, is people are going to think I'm pushy. And when I can help them shift that limiting belief to a place of being professionally persistent and really serving, all of a sudden their sales start to really increase fast.
I like that. Professionally persistent.
Exactly.
And you said something that I actually wrote. Can you say that?
Yeah, selling equals
Selling
serving.
and serving. How odd is that? I just pulled that before we even spoke. I said, you know what? That's what I believe selling is serving. And so for those women who feel like they're pushy, right? They don't want to be pushy. They don't want to be like that used car salesman. They don't want to force anybody to make a decision. They're heart-centered. I just want them to say yes. I got to follow up 2 times. Wow, they're going to. You know how many emails I've sent, ladies, for this conference? How many? I'm being professionally persistent.
That's right.
Now, let's talk about mindset, because I talked about one of the biggest reasons that stop people is their limiting belief. So is it possible to change your limiting belief around selling? And if so, how can they do that?
Absolutely. So I had like 10 coaching sessions today. I don't know, probably maybe not quite 10, 6 or 7. I've lost count because it's a busy week. I think I have 20 sessions this week, which is a lot of limiting belief changes, because I'm a certified NLP coach and I love neurolinguistic programming. One of the tools in my toolbox is that I'm able to, God bless you, to do a limiting belief change. And so there's layers of limiting beliefs. It's sort of like you have the root of a limiting belief and you can change some of the most obvious ones. And so often we start with, I don't want to be pushy, and then it goes deeper into, a lot of times it's about being enough. I am worthy. I deserve success. I deserve money. I deserve a great life, which is kind of underneath the reason a lot of people don't want to be perceived as pushy. So here's a tip for you, and we'll go into a lot more at the conference, so you definitely have to be there. But to start, I want you to, if you have a limiting belief, like something like, I don't want to be perceived as pushy, which is also partially mindset, I want you to write down the 3 things that aren't true about that limiting belief, whatever it might be. So for example, when it comes to being pushy, is it possible that you're professionally persistent? Maybe I'm not pushy, maybe I'm professionally persistent. Maybe I'm not pushy, maybe I'm serving, since that's the word that keeps coming up, maybe I'm serving my client. And maybe I'm not being pushy, but statistically you need to follow up 5 or more times to close a sale. So maybe part of this is just statistics. So what you start to do is you start to unravel that limiting belief, just like an onion, so that you can see the real truth. And the real truth is that many of you who are watching today and who are going to come to the conference are the best kept secret around. And the worst part is that if you don't start to work with the clients that are waiting for you, you are doing a tremendous disservice. Like for you, Ray, for the people who don't come to your conference, their lives aren't going to change. I mean, maybe there's that one thing they would hear that would put them on a trajectory that would change their life forever. I mean, we've all been to conferences where we get that one thing. A lot of times we get more than that, much more, but that one thing. And Michelle, for you, I mean, if you think about it, the people who you've helped, like if they hadn't come to you, I can think of one who's very like on top of mind right now, top of mind, just got married, and if she hadn't come to you, she wouldn't have this amazing man. So that's the piece. It's like you start to unravel those limiting beliefs so you can remember that we're here to serve. We have a lot of work to do, and we should make a lot of money while we do it.
You know, that you're speaking my language, and I talk about, you know, how when you don't show up, when you're the best kept secret, you know, the people that you're called here to serve, they're suffering. And they're suffering because you are their messenger. I believe that we're placed on this planet, that each and every one of us, if we're in this entrepreneurial space, we're here to serve and support and really to change people's lives, to transform people's lives. And so our message is for our tribe. And if you are hiding behind your 4 walls and you're not having the sales conversations and you're not being visible and you're not standing out and you're not being seen, then the people that you're called specifically to serve, they're suffering. You know, a lot of times people think it's really dramatic. Like Ray, you're being over dramatic when you say that. But the reality is, I don't think so. You know, we just lost one of the greatest comedians of our time, Robin Williams. I truly believe, you know, that someone could have helped him. Someone could have helped him. I don't know who it was or who it could have been, but to see someone's life lost for something such as depression and something that he's been struggling with for so long, and yet there are so many people who are in that field. I've spoken to therapists, to coaches who, you know, after this has happened, they were like, oh, this is my message, and oh, this is what I do in the world, and yet they're not visible, and yet people can't find them. So your gift is not for you, and you're here for an assignment. If you have this commission called entrepreneurship, and it's to get your message out there in a greater way, and not to think, oh, I'm afraid, what are people going to think? When you get into that space, it's all about you. You're all in ego. You're not about serving. So I want to just transition, because there are some mistakes that I see that entrepreneurs make in the area of selling. What would you say some of those mistakes are, Ursula?
Sure. Well, no, so many challenges that we have, but they all can be changed really easily. So one is talking too much. Mm-hmm. I wrote one of my articles was entitled "Selling is Not Telling," and I think the amazing part of that and the relief that you can receive from it is that you don't have to know everything. So many entrepreneurs and sales professionals think they have to know every single thing and be able to answer every question and anticipate every question. So they're always getting ready to get started before they go and make the sale. And the truth is, you don't have to know everything. In fact, selling is really asking questions. People will sell themselves. If you know the right questions, in fact, those are one of the things we work on in Sales Camp, and one of the things we'll work on at your event is simply talking about, like, thinking of some of the questions you could ask to help someone figure out whether or not they're a great fit for what you do. So selling is not telling. So you don't have to talk so much. The second one is really about believing in yourself and your product. I always say confidence sells. Confidence sells. People buy for emotional reasons, and then they justify that with logic. And usually the emotional reason is that I actually believe, I have a belief that you have the confidence in yourself that you'll be able to help me. So Ray, when you talk about your conference, I think, gosh, it sounds amazing because you're confident that the people you're bringing together are life changers. So I want to be there. Michelle, you're confident that you're going to help someone find the love of their life. and confident self. So those are just two things right there that you can work on to start to make that shift.
You know, that's a good point because I do believe confidence sells. And, you know, I've I've I love to be sold, by the way. So if I get someone that's a really good, I'm the person running to the back of the room with my credit card here. You know, so I love a really great sales pitch. Especially if the person is heart centered and I really feel like they can help me. But a lot of it comes from that confidence. And what I see many times with women, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, or even sometimes with individuals in general, that they might be confident in selling someone else's product, and then they transition, and now they're the brand, and they have to sell themselves. And as you know, we got all of that inner chatter talking about kids that should be seen and not heard. And you know, I was taught that you don't, you know, talk to strangers, and now I'm trying to ask strangers. You don't talk to strangers, and you don't ask your friends for money, which
Oh,
is
wow.
interesting when you're trying to start a business, right?
Yeah.
So how can someone get over that fear around, you know, or that hesitancy that they might have because now they're the brand and they have to step out there?
Well, oh, great point. And there's so many people go from the corporate world, start their own business, and they suddenly have a panic attack because they are the product, and then it brings up all their stuff about a lot about self-worth and believing in themselves. And well, if there were a magic pill, I'd be selling it. But sometimes it's just going through the process, right? And one of my favorite quotes is by Eleanor Roosevelt. She said, "You must do that thing you think you cannot do." And so usually, so let's say you set a financial goal. A lot of my clients want to double their sales, so they come to me. They're making $20,000 a month. They want to be at $40,000. Great. My first question for them is always, "What's that one thing that's in front of you right now that scares you to death in your business that you do not want to do?" And a lot of times it's related to sales and selling, or they want to work with a different level of client, or they need to raise their prices. So whatever that thing might be. And so that's where we start, because when I can help them start to break through that piece, they start to find their confidence and their inner voice. And again, it goes back to what we talked about before. You know, when you move from selling someone else's product to your own, you have to realize and remember that it's not about you. You're here to serve, exactly what you're talking about. You are the messenger. I loved how you said that, because if we don't get out of the way, we can't do it. In fact, one of my biggest fears was public speaking. Of course, you know, God sent me a message and said, absolutely, like the worst fear in the world. That was my number one fear. I wasn't afraid of anything. You could name it. I wasn't afraid. Public speaking, awful. And here I was speaking, okay? So I kept thinking, what is this about? But the best advice in relation to what we were talking about, the best advice someone gave me is they said, Ursula, it's not about you. It's just not about you. So you can be afraid. You can be afraid to get on stage. You can be afraid to call your clients. Or you can push through that and remember that it's not about you. It's about the people you're here to serve and about getting your message out. So once that click happened, I was like, you know what? I'm going to get on stage. Who cares? At the end of the day, who cares? And then I want to work with this higher level client. I'm going to raise my prices to this next level. And I'm going to serve. And that shifted. So it's about that moment when you get it, that aha moment. And for right now, for people who are listening, I'm sure someone got that one piece. It's going to help move them forward, especially to come to your conference.
Absolutely. And you know what it is? It's those small distinctions. You know, it's one of those like those VA moments, like like really, could it be that simple? And I chuckle because I hate, you know, I always think God has a sense of humor because, you know, when I was in the third grade, I actually was had an incident. I used to be the teacher's pet, and my teacher she was saying, okay, we have this special book report, and I wanted to be the first one to give it. And I worked on the report. It took us like 2 months to get it all done. And I did the research, and it was, you know, during Black History Month. And I got up there. I was the first student. I sat behind the podium, and it was just crazy. It's like my black knuckles turned white because I was gripping the podium. And I remember saying, the name of my speech is Dr. Martha Luther King Jr. And do you know this teacher did not correct me? Matter of fact, she kept saying, do it over. And I kept saying, Dr. Martha. And she was like, do it over. And then she was like, she could tell I was so flustered. She said, Ray, just go back to your seat. And I remember walking back to my seat. And I was like, I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry. And tears were flowing down. And in my mind, I was thinking, I will never speak in public again. So I always chuckle because I was like, yeah, God has a very good sense of humor because he knows that me being in front of people, it's never going to be about me because I'd rather be behind the scenes. So let's talk about quantum leaps. I
Mm.
know that you cover that there are 5 steps that a person can take to quantum leap their sales this year. So can you share some of those steps? You might not want to give them all 5, but you can
Well,
share
here's
some.
the thing. I'm going to give all 5 at a high level.
Oh, okay.
However, here's what happens. When people start to work on a quantum leap, they get blocked. And at your conference, we're going to talk about the 7 sales blocks and how to get unblocked. So that's why you have to
Okay.
be at the conference. I mean, we're going to go deeper. So here are the steps. And honestly, what I found is that it is easier to take a big leap. So for some of my clients who are going from 20 to 40,000, 40,000 to 80,000 a month to break through that, especially the $1 million level, sometimes it's easier to take a quantum leap because you can't get in your own way as easily as you can if you're just making small steps. So there's a point to think about. So here are the 5 steps. Number 1, shift your belief. We've been talking about that. You have to shift your belief about selling, about yourself, about your business. You have to shift those beliefs that are stopping you. Number 2 is clear. It's to set a quantum goal, of course, right? You have to set a goal to get to the next level. But a quantum goal is what I like to think of as a sales stretch. So it feels like a stretch, but it's still believable to you at some level. Okay, a stretch but believable. So you got to set that quantum goal. And I love talking about quantum physics and all those pieces because there's so many things we don't understand about the quantum world right now that science is showing us. For example, I always tell my clients, I say, be careful how you think about your prospects because at some level, I think they can hear you and or feel you because your thoughts are vibrational. Scientifically, they measure them. So anyway, so set a quantum goal. Number 3, critical to taking a quantum leap. So once you set the big goal and you start to move, there's going to be all this stuff that gets in front of you, right? That's the sales blocks, which we're going to talk about at the conference. But there's going to be those things that get in front of you. And number 3 is to be accountable and supported. Have a coach, have a mentor, have friends, girlfriends who support you, have a wonderful husband, wife, spouse, have those pieces in place. And also attend conferences. I think one of the great things about conferences is we come together as a community to be supported and also to have that accountability. I don't think there's anything more powerful than telling your coach what you're going to do. It sounds like especially someone with a velvet hammer to tell them and then to come back next week and not have it done. You're going to get it done. So number 3 is be accountable and supported. Number 4, be open to receive. That sounds kind of, fluffy, and I love real strategy, but there is real strategy with being open to receive because if you can't receive a compliment or receive a gift gracefully or receive anything gracefully, you're not going to receive your amazing clients gracefully. You're not going to receive money gracefully. You're not going to receive the money that you want to. So you have to work on that receiving muscle so that you can receive even more and more. Because the more you have, and of course my own personal mission, the more you have, the more you can give. Because I help entrepreneurs and salespeople make a lot of money so you can give back to the organizations you care about and live a great life. But you can't do that if you're strapped for time and you're strapped for money. And number 5 is to make a commitment to your target clients and to your community. So I mean, when I say community, I mean the place you live, but also the community that you're creating with your own clients and your colleagues and your affiliate partners, and make a commitment to them that you're going to be the best that you can be. You're going to work at the top level because when you work with top clients, you grow to the next level. So it's to make a commitment to be the best that you can be. That's how you take a quantum leap.
All of those were like, wow. I'm so glad that this is recorded so I can go back and listen to it because, I mean, you dropped a lot of gems and a lot of nuggets. And the thing I think that just like really popped out for me is this power to receive. And we go back to high achieving women, super women. We can do it all. I got it. I can handle it. And at the end of the day, we have to be open to receive. I had
Yeah.
a situation happen when I was in Detroit. I used to drive our bus, a little bus ministry. For whatever reason, there was no gentleman that wanted to drive the bus, so I would go pick up the people who didn't have cars. And I remember one time specifically, it was an older woman, and I would pick her and her husband up. And because I was doing it for months, she actually gave me this beautiful gift. It was like very expensive perfume, and it had body wash, and just, I looked at it and I was like, wow, she spent a lot of money for this. And I remember her handing me the bag and saying, here you go, sister, I really want to hand it to you and give this to you. You've been such a blessing to me. And I looked at her and I said, I can't take this. You know, you're on Social Security. I appreciate it, but I can't receive this. And she gave me one of my greatest life lessons, because she looked at me with her little stern, pointy finger, and she said, how dare you? How dare you stop me from getting my blessing? Because the law of reciprocity says, as you sow, so shall you receive.
Oh,
So it's not enough for us to sow the seeds, doing the prospecting, doing the cold calling, doing the social media, doing all the marketing. Oh, we're sowing seeds. If we're not open to receiving, what's the point? Ladies, what's the point? And
wow.
receiving could be as simple as that compliment. I love that. That's powerful, powerful. So I want to end with this question, because I just want you to share what you're going to be covering. I know you kind of told us that you're going to be talking about the 7 selling blocks, but what are you going to be covering at the conference, and why do you believe that women business owner needs to hear your message?
So I'm going to be talking about, as I mentioned, the 7 sales blocks. So those main blocks. I've been doing this, as you said in the beginning, for a while. I've been coaching. In the beginning, I was coaching sales teams who were selling. Some were selling as much as $2 million a month themselves, making $500,000 a year in a position they shouldn't have been making. I mean, and on average, it was a $50,000 position making $500,000. So I had to help them get through massive sales blocks, and I bring that same skill set that I have to help people get unblocked to the entrepreneurial world. And so you're going to want to be there, because we're going to talk about the 7 main sales blocks. And I don't even want to share them. I want you to be there. But I'll tell you, the 7 blocks that stop women especially from having the success that they deserve. And when you can start to get those, first identify where you're blocked, because sometimes people don't even realize where they're stopping themselves. But when you can start to see where you're blocked and how you can make that shift, you really start to then see the plan on how to double or triple your sales. But the thing is, when you're blocked, you can't even see the path to get there. So we're going to talk about how to get unblocked and how to make that quantum leap to double or triple your sales. And I've had clients do it in as little as 30 days once I get them unblocked. So get ready. And I would say come to the conference with big intentions. What do you want to work on in your relationship? What do you want to work on with your health? What do you want to work on in your business? What do you want to work on in sales? Be really clear on what you want to receive, that word again, at the conference, because you will. And thank you, Ray, for having me here today. This is a pleasure, and it's fun to share this with Michelle.
Yes, it is.
I'm so excited. I am. I mean, you guys just don't know. I mean, we are like on fire here at our little campus, and there's a lot of moving pieces that happen to pull this together. And I handpicked, I shared with you previously that I handpicked, we had over 100 women that submitted their application to be speakers at this conference. And I went through each one, we looked at their videos, I looked at the recommendations that people gave me, and the women that we have here is what I believe are the best in the industry to get results. See, there's a lot of people out there talking hype and talking about, yeah, you can double and triple your sales, but I know that Ursula gets results. There's a lot of people that say, oh, find your soulmate, but we know somebody just got married a couple weeks ago because of Michelle G, because Michelle gets results. You can look at testimonial after testimonial of my clients who have gone from 0 to 7 figures in less than 10 months because I get my clients' results. So it's not about the BS, all the hype. It's about real-world strategies that you can implement within your business that can help you get that quantum leap, that can help you really grow and create that juicy, passionate, delicious, yummy life that you know that you are deserving. This is your gift to yourself, to pour into yourself, to allow us to pour into you, and give yourself the opportunity to connect with women that are on the same path as you. And so for those of you who have been sitting on the fence saying, oh, I don't know, should I, shouldn't I, shouldn't I? Now it's time to make a decision. Now it's time for you to say yes. And in order to do that, you just simply need to go to beInspiredconference.com. beInspiredconference.com, beInspiredconference.com. And when you register today, we're going to give you $100 off our regular registration fee. And all you need to do when you register is type in the promo code Ray Guest. Ray Guest. And you'll receive the updated email when we end this call. But I don't want you to delay. You know you've been wanting to come and you've been like, I don't know. Now is the time to take action. What I have learned over the last 15 years of being in this space is that successful people make decisions quickly. It's not about hemming and hawing. It's not about double dutching. And I will submit and I will even just challenge you that if you have been hemming and hawing in your decision making and you are taking a long time to say yes or no, see, a decision is not yes or no. Well, actually, a decision is yes or no. It's not maybe. And so a decision is no, and that's okay if it's no, but we know that the decision needs to be yes for many of you. And for many of you, the reason why your clients or your future clients are not moving into more of those, yes, I want to work with you, it's because you are taking so long and saying yes to the things that you know that you need to move into your business. So I'm going to invite you to make a inspired decision. I'm going to invite you to say yes. And if this resonates with you, which I believe it is, or you wouldn't be in the space with us today, then I would say, you know what? I'm just going to jump in and I'm going to trust that Ray, Ursula, Michelle, they have my back. And we even have a money back guarantee. So you can attend all of day one. And if you feel like this is not the conference for you, just let us know, give us the material back, and we will refund you your money. So there's no risk. It's just about you saying yes. Yes to yourself. Yes to the life that you're wanting to create. And it starts with a decision. So I am excited. I'm excited that Michelle G. Woohoo, is going to be bringing down the house, and Ursula is going to show us how to unblock ourselves.
Do it. That's right.
I think I'm going to be in your conference because, you know I might have a couple blocks. Even at this level, we all need to work on ourselves, right? And I'm super excited to be part of this conference, to be your host, and I look forward. This is week 2. Next week, we're going to be on fire. We have some amazing presenters, so be on time. We had a little snafu, but it doesn't matter. The show must go on, and we're committed to helping you be inspired. So this is Coach Ray, as always, telling you to live boldly, authentically, and courageously. We will see you next week. Bye. Go to beInspiredconference.com and register today.
Bye, guys.
Bye.